What if I told you a normal family in Arkansas moved into a house and slowly realized they were not the only ones living there? At first it was small stuff. Footsteps on the stairs. A toy making noise by itself. A hallway light that refused to stay on. Things you could brush off and say, "Nah, it's just an old house." But then their little boy started hearing voices in his room. Their dog began barking at something invisible on the bed. And one night, their son walked downstairs in a trance, stared at his mother, and started laughing in a voice that did not sound like him. That was the moment Jamie Shea realized something was seriously wrong inside her home. And trust me, this story gets darker than anyone expected. Because this wasn't just a haunted house. This was a place that drained a family mentally, physically, emotionally, until one terrifying night pushed them to leave for good. This is the true story of the Shea Family Haunting. The Arkansas house where evil didn't just lurk. It waited. Jamie and Ben Shea were living what looked like a normal family life. Kids, work, school pickups, late nights, the usual everyday chaos. Jamie would sometimes bring office work home so she could pick the kids up from school, get them fed, put them to bed, and then finish her work on the computer late at night. Nothing about that sounds scary. Until the house started making itself known. Some nights, Jamie would be sitting at the computer when she suddenly heard footsteps coming down the stairs. Clear footsteps. Not creaks. Not the house settling. Actual steps. So naturally she thought one of the kids was awake. She would stop working, listen carefully, and think, okay, somebody is up. Ben heard it too. When he was home alone, he would hear footsteps on the stairs and call out like any parent would. Hey, you're supposed to be sleeping. Go back to bed. But every single time they checked, the kids were asleep. Not pretending. Not hiding. Sleep. And that's when the first wave of fear hit them. Because if it wasn't the kids walking up and down those stairs, then who was it? A few nights later, things got even weirder. Jamie and Ben would be watching TV downstairs when they heard something behind them. It sounded like a rubber ball bouncing down the stairs. Step by step. Thump, thump, thump. Like someone had rolled a ball from the top of the staircase. But when they looked, nothing. No ball. No child. No explanation. And the creepiest part? They both described the exact same sound. Not once. Multiple times. It got to the point where the activity inside the house felt like it had a pattern. Footsteps. Bouncing sounds. Doors. Noises from empty rooms. And then it began targeting the one person who seemed most vulnerable. Their 5-year-old son. Bridger. Bridger hated his bedroom. And not in that normal little kid, I don't want to sleep alone kind of way. This was different. He was genuinely terrified of that room. Almost every night he would say he heard voices. Not one voice. Voices. Talking over each other. Mumbling. Whispering. Like a room full of people speaking all at once. And then his toys would start going off by themselves. Random noises. Random movement. Stuff that made no sense. Jamie began to feel like whatever was in the house was either attached to Bridger or attached to his room. Because out of everyone in the family, he seemed to experience the worst of it. And then came the hallway. The hallway leading toward the room with the fireplace. The same area where strange markings had been found. And for some reason they could not keep a light bulb working there. Every bulb burned out. Again and again. They even called an electrician. He checked everything. The wiring. The setup. The power. And his answer was basically, everything looks fine. I have no explanation. So Jamie tried a simple fix. Battery-powered touch lights. She placed them along the hallway so Bridger could tap them on as he walked. But even those batteries drained within an hour. An hour. That's when the house stopped feeling like an old building and started feeling like something was feeding off the energy inside it. Soon the fear spread to their oldest child, Tori. She started hearing Bridger's toys playing in his room at night. She would get annoyed, walk over, and tell him to stop being loud. But when she opened the door, Bridger wasn't there. He was downstairs. Or sleeping in his parents' room. So who was playing with his toys? Nobody had an answer. And that's what made it worse. Because the family wasn't being attacked all at once. They were being worn down. Night after night. Little by little. No sleep. No peace. No comfort. Their home no longer felt like a safe place. It felt like something was constantly watching them. Waiting for the right moment to push harder. Jamie later said she never felt like they were in immediate danger at first. But the haunting was exhausting them. It was messing with their sleep, their mood, their mental health, their physical health. And when a family can't rest inside their own home, that home stops being a home. It becomes a trap. Jamie had once met a woman at a grocery store who seemed to know something about the house. At the time, the activity was still small, so Jamie didn't think much of it. But once things started getting worse, she wanted answers. She wanted to find that woman again. Ask her what she knew. Ask her what had happened there before. But when Jamie went back to the store, the woman was gone. She didn't work there anymore. Jamie had lost her number. She couldn't even remember her name. It was like the one person who might have had answers had vanished right when Jamie needed her most. And then came the night that changed everything. Jamie was sitting at the computer with someone beside her. It was around 8 or 9 at night. They were working quietly when something appeared on the monitor. It looked like someone walked behind them. A shadow. A reflection. A figure. Something. They both saw it. They turned around. Nobody was there. And because of everything that had already happened in the house, it didn't feel like a simple reflection. It felt like something had stepped close enough to be seen. Then Bridger came downstairs. He wasn't acting normal. He just stood there, staring. Blank face. Empty eyes. Like he was in a trance. Jamie looked at him and asked, "Bridger, are you sleepwalking?" And then he started laughing. Not his laugh. Not a child's laugh. A cold, creepy laugh that sent fear straight through her body. He walked right up to her face and kept laughing. Laughing and laughing. Jamie tried to snap him out of it. She shook him gently. Called his name. "Bridger. Bridger, wake up." But he wouldn't stop. And then their dog lost it. The dog suddenly bolted upstairs barking like crazy. It ran straight into Bridger's room. Jumped on his bed. Went to the corner against the wall. And started barking like it had something trapped there. Something on the bed. Something nobody else could see. Jamie and Ben ran upstairs. But when they came back down, they found the dog's leash lying on the stairs. Before that, it had been hanging on a hook. Nobody had moved it. Nobody had touched it. That was the moment Jamie thought, "My son is possessed." And honestly, can you blame her? After that night, Jamie stopped trying to explain everything away. The footsteps could maybe be an old house. The doors could maybe be wind. The ball sounds could maybe be imagination. But her son laughing in a strange voice while the dog barked at something invisible in his room? Nah, that wasn't normal. That wasn't stress. That wasn't old pipes. Something was in that house. And Jamie knew they needed help. So she wrote about the strange activity in a local newspaper. Not long after, a paranormal group saw the article and reached out. They were called the Central Arkansas Society for Paranormal Research. They agreed to come investigate the house. But before they could arrive, tragedy struck. One day, Jamie picked the kids up from school. They were driving home. Just a short trip. Only a few miles. But there was construction on the road and one of the barrels was out of place, sitting in the lane. Jamie swerved to avoid it. Then she overcorrected. The minivan flipped. Not once. Several times. It rolled up an embankment and went completely head over heels. Glass everywhere. Chaos everywhere. Jamie checked the boys. They were still buckled in. Hanging upside down. But Tori was gone. Jamie looked at the front seat and couldn't find her. Then a woman ran toward the wreck and shouted that someone was underneath the van. So this wasn't just a regular house. The land had history. People had passed through it. Maybe suffered there. Maybe died there. And maybe some of them never left. Then the investigators decided to use a Ouija board. And that's when the night turned ice cold. They asked if the spirit had a name. The board spelled, "See." Then they asked when Seth had been alive. The answer was chilling. Never. Not 1800s. Not a long time ago. Not a date. Never. Then they asked if they could see him. The planchette began moving in a figure 8. Then it pointed toward the camera. As if saying, "You can see me there." The team checked the footage. And on the monitor they saw something forming. A tall figure. Almost transparent. Starting near the ceiling. A head. A human-like shape. Not fully solid. Not fully gone. It lingered. Faded. Came back. Then vanished. And after that, the entire house changed. Jamie said before the Ouija board the house was scary. But after it, it felt evil. The temperature dropped. The whole place became ice cold. The air felt heavy. Malicious. Pressing. Like something had been invited closer. And now it didn't want to leave. The team performed a cleansing with sage. And for a moment, Jamie felt hopeful. Maybe this would help. Maybe the nightmare was finally ending. But the investigators told her something terrifying. They believed there wasn't just one spirit in the house. There were many. Maybe a dozen. Maybe more. Some harmless. Some darker. Some possibly malicious. Imagine being told that, while your kids sleep under that roof, while your son refuses to sleep in his room, while your family is exhausted and scared. Jamie and Ben had reached their limit. After Bridger's trance, after the dog barking at something invisible, after the Ouija board, after the accident, they were done. The house had taken too much from them, so they started looking for a way out. Eventually, they left and decided to rent the house while traveling out of state for work. They got out as soon as they could, but the story didn't end there. In 2007, articles about the Shea family haunting appeared online. That's when a production company found the story and contacted Jamie about turning it into a documentary. The episode was later released on Discovery Channel under the title, Where Evil Lurks. But Jamie later admitted something important. The show changed parts of their real story, especially the crash. In the TV version, it made it seem like some ghostly figure appeared in front of the van. But Jamie made it clear. That never happened. There was no phantom in the road. No ghost. No dark figure. Just a construction barrel out of place. She said the real story was already scary enough. And honestly, she was right. Because the most terrifying part of this haunting wasn't some dramatic Hollywood monster. It was what the house did slowly. It stole sleep. It stole peace. It made a family question their own reality. And when Jamie and Ben tried to return later, hoping maybe the activity had stopped, the house proved it wasn't done. One evening, the family was in the kitchen playing cards. It wasn't late. It was around 6 or 7. They were listening to a burned CD. Normal family moment. Then suddenly, the CD player jumped to track 99, and a voice began repeating, "You need to help." Again. And again. "You need to help." Over and over. Jamie checked the CD. There was no song with those words. No track like that. No explanation. The voice just kept repeating, like someone trapped inside the house was begging. Or warning them. That was it. That night, the Shea family packed what they could. And left for good. They never truly got their sanctuary in that house. Only fear. Only stress. Only the feeling that something unseen was living alongside them. Jamie later said the experience taught her how badly outside stress can damage a family's health. And that's what mattered most to her. Getting her family out. Giving them a safe place again. Because a home is supposed to protect you. But the Shea house did the opposite. It broke their peace. It watched their children. It whispered through rooms. It moved through hallways. And even years later, Jamie still believes one thing. This kind of stuff does happen. And maybe that's the scariest part. Not everyone believes in ghosts. Not everyone believes in hauntings. But when an ordinary family says their house changed them forever, when a child hears voices in his room, when a dog barks at something invisible on a bed, when a CD player suddenly repeats, "You need to help," you have to ask yourself, what if they weren't imagining it? What if something really was inside that Arkansas home? And what if the Shea family got out? Just in time?